The year was 1951. A handful of pioneers from First Presbyterian left to start a church on the south side of town in a vacant tavern. Our 42 charter members were resourceful and put their faith in God. From here, Pine Shores was born. One of the charter members was Robert Hoffman, who owned and developed the Pine Shores subdivision. He donated the large triangular lot bound by Ridgewood, Crestwood, and Elmwood. Work began immediately on a church. In 1952, the building was complete, with room for 150 chairs, an office, restrooms, and a kitchen. The church was packed, and loudspeakers were set up so people could worship in their cars. By 1953, services were transferred in the winter to the Siesta Key Drive-In. Another new structure was needed. This addition, completed in 1955, served our congregation until 1961. This was our sanctuary until the end of the 20th century, when a capital campaign began to construct a new sanctuary with expanded educational and music facilities that will take us into the future.
We had all of the land that we needed. It was just a matter of imagining what could be and putting the financial backing and the emotional commitment of the congregation behind the new church. And we had some very, very talented people who stepped up to the plate to do that.
3 men faithfully took the challenge to lead portions of the campaign: Cy Bispham, Chuck Montgomery, and Tom Rinehart.
Cy, a longtime member of Pine Shores, really stepped up in financial contributions, also in his own very personal way, met with, talked to other members, brought them along to understand the mission and how they could best support it. Tom Rinehart, newer at Pine Shores, but Tom's and Sandy's contributions financially and personally also went a long way to making this happen.
Tom always had faith in the congregation, and that's why he just stepped up.
And Chuck, with his financial support, his leadership style, really went a long way to explain the mission, to understand the organizational structure, to get people to buy into, with his leadership style, what could be meant by having a new sanctuary.
In 1998, we had a trip to Nova Scotia. And one of the cities we visited was Halifax, and we saw many sites there. And one of them was St. George's Round Church. And I think when we stepped into it and just walked around it, he just could almost visualize, you know, having something here at Pine Shores.
The design of this church is definitely a departure from what we had before. But I think that it really centers our whole campus. The other thing that I love about it is to sit up in the choir loft, listening to the sermon, and looking out through those very high windows at the trees and the clouds and the sky. It has such a spiritual feel about it. Now, not very many people know that Carl Abbott, who is now considered to be the father of the Sarasota School of Architecture, was a consulting architect on this, and you can really see his touch in so many different things about the church. And it's just such an outstanding architectural piece.
Elmwood Avenue closure, I think, was a key part of this whole process. That road broke up the property in the past. In winters past, I can recall 2 or 3 feet of water out in front of the sanctuary, so it made it very difficult for people to cross the road to get to the other side. So we filed a petition to close the road with Sarasota County. And that went against really some pretty long odds, because we did some research and found it was very unusual for Sarasota County to support closing a road. So we went ahead with faith to do that, and part of the involvement of the congregation, there was a whole group of people that went around to all the neighbors to solicit involvement and approval of the process and to write letters in favor of it, which they did over a several-month period. And we had the hearing before the county commission, and a lot of drama went into this, and a lot of people participated and spoke in favor of it. And when it came time for each commissioner to announce his or her vote, then we all waited with bated breath to see what's going to happen. And then one final commissioner came out and said, you know, we need to do something to keep our churches inside the core area of Sarasota and not way out east of town, and voted to support it. So it actually turned out to be a 4-to-1 vote to support it, and so that gave us this beautiful park-like setting that we have today and can enjoy for generations to come.
He really wanted to see it to fruition, but you know, unfortunately he couldn't. But I think he would be very pleased, very pleased.
In the middle of the construction, our beloved Billy and Bob Martin decided to retire, and God brought us co-pastors Karen and Bruce Wismer.
So when Karen and I arrived, I have a vivid recollection of getting on campus and realizing that the foundation had been poured, and with really some great excitement about the possibilities.
There was energy, there was life, people were involved, and you got to see from the ground up the church being built in a very positive and fresh way.
A second capital campaign to lift the burden of carrying a large mortgage was launched in 2013. It was completed in early 2015.
All the contributions that we get now can go to ministry and mission, and that's just, it's so freeing. We have enormous opportunities to be people of good news, and we can share the hope of the gospel. We can help people, and we can heal those who are sick or are in need. And I just think it's just an amazing forward-looking opportunity that we get to be the Pine Shores that God calls us to be.
This place, Pine Shores, from the very beginning, has been a faithful, loving, caring community of people. And I think that's what makes it just the best place to be.